Hey everybody, on today's video we're going to be installing these directional lights and the ultra bright color spotlights. The reason they're a color spot is this middle part here lights up with the regular just white color, and then these two actually flash an amber color. So the wiring for that's going to be a little bit different. The first thing we're going to want to do is get these mounted to wherever you want them mounted on your vehicle. For me, I'm going to mount them to my headache rack. This part you might need a second set of hands for. I'm going to put the directional bar here on the bottom of the headache rack. And what you can do is you can either measure your whole width and figure out the center that way. Or what I'm going to do is I know there's 8 modules in this piece, so this gap between the two, between the 4th and 5th module is going to be center, so you're going to want to line that up center on your back window if you're doing it on a truck. So right about there, and then have somebody hold it. I just got some self-tapping screws for this that are shorter than the depth of the headache rack, and spray painted them black. For the other lights, you're going to want some sort of bolt, just because they are heavier. This thing isn't very heavy, so I wasn't super worried about it. Now that that's done, if it's a simple cigarette lighter like this, you can just run it through your back window. But what I'm going to try to do is take the cigarette lighter plug and actually run it straight to the battery with a switch and everything. And I will show you guys how to do that in this video. Next, we're going to want to mount our 2 color floods, which I'm going to put up here. So we'll do the same kind of thing where we center it up. It's probably going to be off of this side piece that you guys can't really see because I'm blocking it, and then somewhere here in the middle, but we'll get a tape measure and figure all that out. So the hardware these lights came with actually doesn't work for the way I want to set it up. So I went down. So what I did is I went down to the hardware store and just picked up some hardware, took the old pieces, so I made sure I got the right diameter, and then just got longer bolts and some different washers. So you can do the same thing. I spray painted them black when I was done just so that it matched everything else. I do, however, want to use these little rubber feet that came with it. It just kind of gives you a gap between whatever you're attaching to and the light so that the vibration doesn't transfer over. All right, next, now that we've got our little feet on, you want to adjust the actual feet of the light so that they're facing the way that you want them. So for me, it's straight back, something like that. And you want to make sure that you're hitting the center of any metal that you go into, so you're not drilling into the side of it, but you're actually going into the center part. Once you've got level all figured out, you grab your trusty helper again, and what I did was I made a little mark on the metal. That looks about center, and then you can pull the light away and finish it. Now you put your light back up on there. Put your little rubber foot on it. Put your screw through it, and you screw through the hole. Then feed it through the back like so. Now that we've got both of our lights in, The lights I have came with this little kind of controller piece. It's what makes the outside lights flash like I was talking about earlier. They have the amber on the outside that flashes, and then the white floodlight in the middle can also flash. So this is basically what controls all that. If you have just a normal set of lights without all those features, you would just then skip this step and wire it straight in like I'll show you after this. But this is just a step that I have to do because of those. What I'm going to do with these is I've got some double-sided adhesive, and I'm just going to stick them inside the bed here. These are weather resistant, but I also do have a bed liner that I normally have in here I took out just for this video. So between them being under this cover and the bed liner going over the top of them here, they will be pretty well protected from the weather. So I'm just going to use some double-sided adhesive and stick them in here like I said. You do want to make sure I've got this damp rag here. You want to make sure to go ahead and clean the area first so that your adhesive will stick. These did come with brackets where you could just screw them in, but I don't want to screw into the side of the truck. While that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and get the adhesive ready. Now that we've given that plenty of time to dry in here, it's all nice and dry, we're going to go ahead and mount these. You just peel the little backer off. Now obviously this is just for the 2 spotlights. I did ask when buying them, and they did say each light needed their own controller, so that is why I ended up with 2. Now that we've got all of our lights mounted and the boxes where we want them, we want to go ahead and wire everything. What I'm going to do for these lights is I'm going to solder most of the connections, but I'm also going to do a couple butt connectors so that we can remove the lights later without having to unsolder everything. I'm not an expert on soldering by any means, so this isn't going to be a video on how to solder or anything like that. I just wanted to show you guys a couple of quick tricks that I found out. Getting something like this to hold the wire is super helpful. Otherwise you're trying to hold it and solder it and the wire is hot and all that kind of stuff. Always make sure to protect paint if you're on anything like that, and then this piece of metal here is just to help with heat. There's tons of videos out there on YouTube on how to do soldering, so check some of those out if you need them, especially for things like this that are going to be outside. You're going to want to have some sort of heat shrink. Ooh, that's still closed. You're going to want to have some sort of heat shrink on it that you can heat up later and seal all of your connections. Always remember to put this on first, slide it down your tube or your wire. I will have all of the tools that I've used for this project linked down in the video description. So if you guys want to use the exact same things I am, it's all going to be down there. Now that you've got that step done, you want to go ahead and slide your tubing over it. And then get a heat gun, and careful not to melt anything around, and heat this guy up. And you can see it just shrinks right down because it's a shrink tubing. Try to get all the sides that you can without burning it or making it bubble or burning your hands. When you're all done, they should look something like that. You don't want any bare wire sticking out of any of these, and you want to make sure that the ends are nice and sealed. That one's not quite, so I'll heat that one up a little bit more. Like that one, it's all sealed. You're trying to keep water from getting into there, basically. As you can see here, I've got the 2 sets of lights coming in, and they're going to come down and hook into their respective controller. I did leave plenty extra of this because I do want to route it nicely up here on this headache rack. And on something like this, like I said, these controllers are kind of special for these lights. Most lights don't have them because they don't work the same way these do. Most of them will come with a wiring diagram or some sort of wiring harness. Just follow that so you know which color wire from the light needs to hook up to which color wire on the controller. Okay, here we have both of our lights coming in. We have both of our controllers. I've figured out the wiring for these. These are the 3 wires that control the lights. And out of the 4, you have the 3 wires that those hook into and your ground. These connectors I'm going to use are a different way of doing it than soldering. These are waterproof connectors. They clamp on, and then so you put one on one side and one on the other, and then push them together, and they connect. So what the idea is here is I can have the wire for this coming in. I purposely left this a little bit long, and I'll trim it if I need to, but I might just leave it a little bit long and kind of stuff the rest of it inside the bed here, because I do have the bed liner that has quite a bit of space in here. But the idea is if I ever want to take the headache rack and the lights off, just to not have the lights on there for whatever reason, I can just unhook all the different lights and then undo the 2 bolts on each side of the headache rack, and the lights are off, and I still have all the controllers and the wiring and everything in, so that when I go to put them back on, I don't have to rewire everything, and it's just a simple plug. What I'm going to do for these is, since I've got 3 different colors and 3 different lights, I'm going to use a different color on each light so that all the lights will be plugged in together, as opposed to trying to figure it out. So for these, you want to do the same kind of thing where you strip the wire back a little bit. This you don't need nearly as much as you do when you're soldering. You just need enough to get the connector to stay on. Oop, that might even be too much. So we've got 3 on here, and then I'm going to take these, 4 on here, one of them being the ground, which I still want to be able to disconnect here, and then the 3 controller wires, which will get these guys. The end of these are that same heat shrink material, so that the water doesn't get into the cable, so you want to go ahead and hit them with a heat gun just like we did with the other ones. Alright, you want to do the same thing with everything else and get all of the connectors set up. What we'll do for these ones is we will go ahead and solder all the controller wires and the power wires going back to the battery. So you have your positive and your ground, and then these wires are what is used to control the actual light. So these will need to go to the inside of the truck. These will need to go to the battery and or a place on the truck that is grounded. But those are all going to go through here and then down underneath the truck. I am going to run another section of this stuff through this hole and down into the bottom. I've done quite a bit off camera here. I've got all the wires run into the actual engine bay of the truck, and I have installed a secondary fuse box. I've just attached it here. I haven't actually done any of the wiring, so I'm going to show you guys how to do that right now. If you look at this fuse box, you've got the negative or ground side here, and then the positive side here. And what you want to do is you want to have your positive cable hooked into here and a negative cable hooked to here, and then to either the negative on your battery or the ground. And then any grounds you have will go into these 6 screws here, and then any of the positives you have will go into these 3 or these 3 with a fuse in each spot. Here I've used these little eyelet connectors, and those just crimp on like the plugs that I used in the back of the truck. Those will also be linked if you guys want to get the same ones that I did along with the box here and all the fuses. I'm gonna make sure to get that nice and tight so it doesn't bounce around at all. And then here are the wires that I ran from all the lights. I'm gonna just move those out of the way for now. I've actually got a ground right here on the bed of the truck. That's a factory grounding point where they grounded several other things. I don't really have a lot of room in here to be able to film this, so I'm going to just show you guys ahead of time what I'm going to do. Here's my little controller. I'm going to mount that up on the dash up here. I've got the 4 controller wires coming in that I will hook into the back of this controller. And then I've got ground and power that's under here still. And you can see where that all ran through the firewall up here. And obviously I need to clean all this up so it's not wrapped in the pedals when I'm driving. So that runs through the firewall there, down here along that rail there. It's on the other side. Oh, there's my cat. It's on the other side of that rail, so you can't really see it. All the way back there. And then, it's super dark, but that's it right there. And that runs up the inside of here, all the way up the bed to here, and then it goes to that. I've got this light all wired in because it's not going through the controller because I've got a wireless remote for that. So that one's working. Now I just need to wire these 2 guys into the remote, and then when we're done, we'll see what it looks like. I've got everything completed now, so I'm kind of going to do a quick walk around and show you guys. Here's the fuse box. I've got the 2 spotlights with the flashers in them up here. I've got the directional light here, 1 fuse down, and then the controller that's inside the truck is in this guy. And I was able to pretty much hide most of the wiring. There's a little bit here where it goes into the firewall that I could put another piece of this there if I wanted to. I just haven't yet. To go around to the inside of the truck, and I've got the controller. All that's pretty well hidden with that same stuff. Come around to the back here, we've got those 2 lights. And then that bottom directional light is actually controlled by a remote by itself, and it's got different patterns as well. You can see we put the bed liner back in, and it hides all of our wiring over there that we did. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you're looking for any of the things used in this video, with the exception of maybe these 2 lights up here, that'll be linked down in the video description. The reason these 2 won't be there is because they don't make them anymore. And I actually got them on a closing out sale. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment if you've got any questions down below, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.